name is Drew Crowley. I'm going to talk about communicating in the digital age. The internet can be used both formally and informally as a communication medium. It has taken the place of traditional communication, such as written mail and phone calls. It used to be to where your only choice was to use the mail. Now you can use email or social media or text messages. Most communication done online is informal, such as instant messages and text messages. Most social media is very informal, such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. Another informal example of informal communication online is FaceTime and Skype calls with friends. Whilst most communication online is informal, communication has also taken the place of traditional formal communication, such as important business meetings are now done over digital mediums like Skype and FaceTime, and reports and legal notices are now given over them. And formal email has taken the place of letters, such as legal notices and like job interview thank you letters. Digital media is mass media that is spread via electronic means. The internet is the most instantaneous medium for mass media. Mass media has evolved from being the newspaper to TV to the internet. The internet is an important communication medium because it's a two-way street. With TV, newspapers, and radio ads, you cannot communicate back with the person very easily. The earliest example would be like if somebody called into a TV news station, but that's much more harder than typing a comment in response to something. Communication has made it easier to communicate two ways, so ideas are spread more easily. Social media has become one of the main digital communication platforms. For instance, Facebook has 2.01 billion active users, and almost 90% of millennials have a social media account, with almost 30% of all living adults in the world have a social media account. So social media's reach is much more prevalent than that of traditional communication means like TV and radio and print advertising. The personal identity you create on social media is up to you. It doesn't necessarily have to reflect your own life, your real life, I mean. For example, most people on Facebook only post good things and pictures of your life you want others to see, and this can paint an unrealistic picture of your actual life. And people often look for reassurance in their life choices in social media feedback. So if somebody posts something controversial, they're looking for reassurance in that choice. Digital communication has a lot of downsides. For instance, cyberbullying is one of the most prevalent downsides of the internet. Cyberbullying is prevalent on social media and through other means of digital communications. Cyberbullying can take place on Facebook, through text message, through FaceTime, and other means of communication. Cyberbullying is very prevalent because of the lack of face-to-face communication that makes it easier for others to bully. Most people can't bully people face-to-face, but being anonymous on the keyboard encourages some people to bully even more. And cyberbullying is also difficult because it follows you, unlike traditional means of bullying. For example, it follows your phone's always on you, so your social media accounts are always following you around. If somebody's bullying you at work, that ends when you leave work, but cyberbullying follows you everywhere. It can be hard to interpret things written on social media. For example, things on social media aren't face-to-face, so it's hard to intake those nonverbal cues. So writings on Facebook, text message, or other things can be hard to interpret. The use of emoji and punctuation or lack thereof can change the meaning of your thoughts. For example, somebody might say great with an exclamation point, which sounds like a good thing, or someone might say great with a period, which sounds like sarcasm or being passive aggressive. People's background and ethnicity can dictate what they post on social media. For example, if your family strongly values education, you might be more encouraged to post your educational achievements online versus somebody who wasn't brought up valuing education. Your views can usually be reinforced by people on social media you follow. So, for example, if you follow Fox News, you'll get a more conservative opinion of the news, and if you follow MSNBC, you'll get a more liberal version of it, and that can shape your opinion. The internet has made us lazy communicators because most of it is informal, and you no longer have to go through the process of writing a formal letter for a simple task, such as requesting a meeting or asking a client or coworker to lunch. Instead, you can send a written text within a few seconds. On top of that, the internet has also created a smaller world for us. We can now easily communicate with more people overseas thanks to the internet. So if you have a friend that moved overseas, you no longer have to write like a letter to them. You can now just simply communicate over Facebook and keep track of them and their pictures. Thanks to the internet, and apps like Google Translator have eliminated the need for people to speak the same language in order to communicate. So if you have a client that doesn't speak English, you can simply talk to your phone and it talks to them back in their preferred language. So you no longer have to be bilingual in order to communicate with somebody that speaks a different language. However, sometimes translation can be lost when we communicate on the same platform. So if you're interacting with a British person on Facebook and they put an X at the end of the sentence, that usually means love and kisses, and that might look odd to some Americans, and there's other forms of that within different cultures too. Unlike traditional forms of media, anyone can put anything they want online. So unlike vetted news you might see on television, somebody can easily spread a fake news story online. Facebook has been criticized for the easy spread of fake news and not doing enough about it. And fake news can influence opinions in the wrong way. It can also influence important decisions like elections. Fortunately, group communication is easier in a digital age. You're no longer confined to being grouped in with people in the same physical location as you. Your group can be digitally connected from around the world. So you no longer have to be in the same vicinity as somebody. You can now communicate with people in a different country within seconds. Challenges include limited nonverbal cues and trouble building relationships with each other due to cultural differences and not being near each other. So that can make work challenging if you're not used to that person's personality or culture. While living in a digital world has a few negative aspects like cyberbullying, the benefits far outweigh them. We can now more cheaply communicate and spread ideas faster. And in doing so, we save time and money, so businesses no longer have to fly somebody overseas in order to have a meeting with them. They can simply get on Skype and communicate within seconds. And that far outweighs the bad things about like cyberbullying.